Hello and welcome to another TLDR EU video. With the French presidential election a little over a year away, the contest is beginning to heat up. Recent polls seem to suggest that Marine Le Pen, leader of the far-right National Rally Party, is beginning to make significant progress, with some polls going as far to suggest that she may genuinely have a shot at the presidency. So in this video, we'll take a look at what's fueling the resurgence of France's far-right, and whether Le Pen could really be France's next president. Before we start, we're running a special promotion with our Patreon. Every backer, new or old, above $10, gets one of these exclusive golden TLDR pin badges. They're never going to be for sale, so if you want yours, you have to sign up this month. On top of the pin, you'll get all of your usual perks: early access to videos, thanks in videos, behind the scenes post, the ability to vote on topics, exclusive live events, and more. And the satisfying feeling of knowing that you're supporting independent, unbiased news content. Anyway, the link for all of that's in the description. To say that Marine Le Pen is a controversial figure would be putting it mildly. For many, she epitomizes the toxicity and xenophobia of the far right. For many others, she's the most credible candidate to take on and defeat Macron. The issue being that the pandemic has been a double-edged sword for Le Pen and her electoral chances. On one account, it offers a fertile breeding ground for support and policy. On another, however, it's diverted media attention and political capital away from Le Pen and towards the government, itself another double-edged sword. Macron's handling of the pandemic and the ensuing crisis has divided opinion. Many, for example, cite the extremely slow rollout of France's vaccination programme as at best ineffectiveness and at worst incompetence. Before the pandemic took proper hold in January 2020, Le Pen sat down with the Financial Times for an interview where her intentions were clear. She would present herself as a profoundly reasonable and pragmatic response to Macron's chaos, in the light of the continuing Gilets jaunes protests at the time. Remarking, Emmanuel Macron is the last gasp of the old system. He was presented as a new broom, and look what we got. France has been mired in violence for 14 months. He said in 2017, it's me or chaos, and we've had uninterrupted chaos since he took power. The anger arising from the anti-establishment Gilets jaunes protests, as well as the anger at Macron's handling of the pandemic, have allowed for support to coalesce and consolidate, a process allowed to go even further due to the detoxification of Le Pen's party. In the words of the FT, she's distanced herself from her father and his notorious anti-Semitism, and even courts Jewish voters with a promise of action against Islamist militants. This seems to be working, with a poll from Ipsos putting Macron and Le Pen close to head, with Macron garnering between 24 and 27% of voting intentions, and Le Pen 25 to 26.5%. What's really added tension to talk surrounding Le Pen's presidency was a second poll conducted by Harris Interactive, L'Opinion and Comstrat. Conducted towards the tail end of January, it sampled over 1,400 people. According to Harris Interactive, in all electoral configurations tested, Le Pen would now come out on top in the first round of voting intentions, garnering between 26 and 27% of votes cast. Emmanuel Macron gets 23 to 24% of voting intentions expressed. This, in and of itself, is not a cause for concern, as no candidate would have garnered an outright majority of votes, so a runoff between Macron and Le Pen would need to take place, as was the case in 2017. At which point, commenters argue that voters would coalesce around Macron in order to keep Le Pen out of office. Harris Interactive, however, never publicly published its second round analysis, but leaked data shows that Macron would win with just 52% of the vote, a gap within the poll's margin of error. Harris Interactive have declined to comment on this leaked data. They're not the only ones, though. France's Minister of the Economy and Finance publicly acknowledged that a Le Pen win remains a possibility. The election of Marine Le Pen, we all know, is a possibility. We all know that is a possibility. It is a political possibility and it must be opposed. Things, however, aren't entirely rosy for Le Pen. In France's 2020 local elections, support for Le Pen and the National Rally decreased. In the 2014 municipal elections, National Front, as it was then known, managed to win 1,438 council seats in 463 towns. In the 2020 election, that figure declined to a little over half, at 840 seats in 258 towns. With regards to mayoral elections, National Rally won 3, but in the process lost 1, and lost a much-prized hold on Marseille Town Hall. The party, however, tried to downplay the scale of the loss, arguing that no huge weight should be placed on the chaotic election, in light of just a 41% turnout. The local election didn't just knock out the momentum from under the National Rally, though. Macron's La République En Marche didn't do that well either. It ultimately failed to take any of France's large cities, with France's Green Party diverting a lot of support away. In Paris, Poitiers, Brest and Lille, where the party stood on its own 2 feet, it came third. In Lyon, it ran a joint platform with the centre-right, which it lost. In Strasbourg, it did the same, and again with the same result. The issue being that while Macron's La République En Marche may have suffered during the 2020 elections, for better or worse, it's gained a lot of screen time. Something that Le Pen and her party haven't. For many, Le Pen has struggled to find a voice when it comes to the pandemic and how to respond. The French government has sapped a lot of energy away from the political arena, where Le Pen ultimately thrived on a platform of visibility. In the words of Politico, one of Le Pen's advantages is her ability to make connections during campaign stops, spending hours mingling with crowds in the depressed northern towns that have become her home. All of this was made nigh impossible due to large swathes of public health restrictions. Although not having screen time, the focus on Macron and the government may actually end up playing into Le Pen's hands. As we briefly touched upon, Macron's faced a number of quite significant issues over the course of his presidency, especially over the last year or so. Several terror attacks, from the beheading in North Paris to the stabbings at the Basilica of Notre Dame in Nice, have invariably played into Le Pen's hands and brought political attention back to the area she knows best: immigration. Le Pen has also softened her stance quite considerably when it comes to the European Union. Gone are the days when she was one of the most vocal advocates for leaving it. She's now calling for reform, specifically transforming it into an alliance of European nations. And this moderation may allow her to capture a previously untapped set of voters. Le Pen is also critically unrivaled. There's no one inside the party that's questioning her legitimacy or authority, with Le Pen also having a relatively clear line of sight to the election, something that cannot be said for her opponents from competitor parties. Les Républicains, the centre-right party for example, has a number of candidates and prospective candidates in the offering, potentially including one Michel Barnier. The ultimate issue being that while Le Pen getting to the second round now seems likely, winning the second round requires a lot more than your own supporters to back you. While we said there were no major challenges from within her party, there is one from outside: her niece, Marion Maréchal, who ditched the Le Pen surname in 2018. For Maréchal, it seems obvious that today you cannot win alone. Marine Le Pen cannot win without a coalition, and being more open to the centre-right. As things stand, the 2022 French presidential election seems to be a clear two-horse race. The question being, are we about to see one stumble and fall? What do you think? Are we seeing a resurgence of France's far right? Have Macron's deficiencies led to an opening that Le Pen and her party can capitalise on? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.